Could you share anything that you think somebody might not know about the natural community?
I think that there's a desire that most parents have, especially first time, second time parents, to get everything right. There's this feeling like I need to make all the correct choices. And it's all just so long range. Like, if I don't have a perfect birth, my child won't go to Harvard. Like it seems so, all these choices are so important. Like, if I don't breastfeed, then obviously I'm a horrible mother and they'll never, and when you're so unsure of yourself because it's also new and you don't know, you reach out looking for those answers, you can get sucked into this community of people like, here are the right answers. And I think you should always be wary when somebody says they 100% know what the right answer is for you. I mean, I 100% say I do not think home birth is safe, but I'm not going to tell you the right choice is to have an epidural or have a C-section, or you only should birth at these kind of hospitals or what. I mean, it's like, even that would be weird, but the home birth will be like that. The community will be like, if you do not have a free birth and nurse your baby for 2 years and wear them all the time and only use natural teethers, then you are a bad mother. And I think there's something that really, there's a draw to that when you're insecure and it's also new and scary to know, to somebody saying, this is the right answer. If you follow all these rules, then you're doing it right and you'll get the right result. And I want to say that I have a lot of children. I've parented I've given birth 9 times. I have multiple adopted children. And there are very few yeses, like this is the only ways. There are very few times in parenting where there's a clear cut right or wrong. There is a clear cut, this is how this should be done. A lot of times there's like this is how you shouldn't do this, like that's abusive or this is dangerous or whatever. But aside from those, there's so that even though it's very drawing to find somebody who's going to give you all the answers and tell you exactly the right way to do things, it's a very much a red flag if somebody is giving you all the answers to the right way to do things, because there are so many right ways to do things that if somebody's telling you all the right ways to do things, they're probably giving you a lot of wrong ways to do things, and they're giving you a false sense of security, thinking that this is all going to turn out a certain way because you followed X, Y, and Z, and that is not the way. Everybody has to evaluate each choice in parenting. Like, there's so many choices and nobody knows all the right answers. So if they're trying to sell you that, and that community does try to sell you that, then you might want to find a more forgiving community, because it's stressful enough to the expectations you're going to have on yourself than to have the expectations of a community that expect you to do X, Y, and Z, or you don't fit in anymore. This isn't high school. Parenting is not fun when you're, living under that kind of stress.
I'm wondering what your advice would be for somebody that's interested in a home birth or out of hospital birth.
My advice, it's hard because I try to avoid situations now where I would have to talk to somebody in that situation. I always start it with, I just have to let you know that I had a baby that died during a home birth. And that's just the starter. And then I got to gauge what their reaction is to that. As far as advice, if you just start with that, generally they'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, you kind of get to their like questions. Are they like, whoa? Or are they like, okay, let's change the subject, because the person who's like, I want to change the subject doesn't want to hear it anyways. They aren't going to be convinced, I mean, in the real world, in the last several years, the only people that I've encountered in like real life, not online, are my husband, my current husband, his brother's wife, so my sister-in-law, has home births, and we got into it over on Facebook because not because I was approaching her at all, but because I posted stuff about Aquila, I posted stuff about home birth, and then her husband read the stuff on my Facebook and private messaged me and chewed me out, told me I was like a horrible person for stressing out his pregnant wife, and I'm like, what? And so it's very awkward at family get-togethers because like she just ignores me and he just ignores me, and like they were mad at me for posting my story and posting stuff that was stressing out her. And I'm like, she doesn't have to read my it's not like I'm like private messaging her the stuff or putting it on her wall or something. Like, I'm sorry that, you know, that stresses her out. I mean, I don't know what to say about that. So that's really the only in the real world stuff that I've encountered, because I don't really go to mommy groups anymore. I have too many kids and I homeschool. I'm really, you know, that's not my whole world anymore. You know, I have babies and I'm giving birth, but really I'm much too busy with my older kids to talk in real life to a lot of pregnant or birthing people. I don't choose to. That whole like scene just depresses me for the most part. It takes a lot just to do one of these, like takes like a week of fallout, you know, of emotional, it's just stressful. So I can't imagine going to like a mommy group or something right now. And I don't know. And a lot of people my age aren't having babies anyways. I'm 40 now. So like, I don't, you know, most people that I encounter have like teenagers or older kids. They're not giving birth. So it doesn't matter. They might be like, oh yeah, I had a home birth, but that was like 10 years ago.
I have a question and I have no idea what the answer is. Have you ever met a out of hospital midwife that you thought was a good one?
Have I ever met? I mean, there's one that I interviewed before picking Faith, who was a CNM who did homework. She actually, remember the practice that I gave birth with in the hospital? Right. Those CNMs, one of them went on, because they couldn't work in the hospital for years. So one of them went on and did home births. The other ones decided to do just gynecological care, you know, for that time. The one that went on to do home births, I said, I wanted a hands-off birth, and I wanted, you know, I had my list of kind of things that I was comfortable with. She said in the interview, I'm not comfortable with that. That is not something I will do. I will have the second person there. I will do checks. I will do X, Y, and Z. And she was like, you will do this test and that test, and that's the only one I'm comfortable with. And I was like, yeah, that's not exactly what I'm looking for. So I'm thinking, you know, I've never heard any bad stories about her. Like Mary Barnett was her name. I never heard any, and I was pretty involved with that community for 2 years. I heard lots of bad stories about lots of midwives. Never heard any bad stories about her. I think she was very picky about her clientele and very quick to transfer and quick to refer out if it was outside of her scope. So, and she had worked in a hospital for years and years and years. So she had seen bad things, and that probably helped a lot. I think that a CNM who has worked in the hospital for years, that would be, you know, a provider that would be certainly more trustworthy. I mean, you still got the aspect of being away from all the equipment and all the other people. But if, you know, somebody's like looking for a midwife, I'd say, you know, look for a certified nurse midwife who has hospital experience. And they're hard to find because most of them wouldn't do it, because they're like, I don't want to put myself in that position where I don't have the equipment I need and the staff to help me if something goes wrong. But if there is somebody who does that, it is very judicious and careful about who she takes, and will rule you out and transfer you to a doctor if certain things change in the pregnancy. That's the type of provider that would be the safest.
So when you were still like up to your eyeballs in the natural birth community and the home birth community and the like gentle and natural parenting communities, did you ever feel like there was a sense of everybody trying to stop you from talking to people who might have bad stories about their community?
Oh, absolutely.
Or like, did they encourage you to stay away from those
Oh, yeah.
people in those
That's just
conversations?
bad vibes, and that person is just angry, and that person's just, like, they're a liar. They're just trying to get hits, or they're just, yes, absolutely. That person's just bitter. Yeah. He has things to say about it. He's like, it's true. It's true.
Now, when you were still in the community, when that type of conversation would come up where somebody would be like, oh, don't listen to them, they're just bad vibes, would you ever see that as a red flag, or did it like spark any kind of like questioning in you, or did it just feel like they had your back?
I think that's now always a red flag to me. I think if somebody tells you not to listen to somebody else because of the negative things they're saying, then that's a red flag right there. Because if somebody doesn't believe you have the ability to filter out or like decide for yourself, what somebody's saying, if it's true or not, then that's a red flag right there. Because I don't think that's ever a good sign. Somebody says, don't listen to so-and-so because they're very negative. I mean, I see that a lot in the Christian, I'm Christian in Christian circles, where they're like, don't listen to so-and-so because they're so negative, and that's such, that's just going to bring you down. And to some extent, maybe you shouldn't be watching, Rambo movies on all the time, because that might be, kind of pull you away from your Christian walk. But to say, oh, you can't ever listen to so-and-so because they don't have perfect doctrine, or they're not, they're too negative, or they're too worldly. It's like, I'm an adult. Like, I'm not a child. Like, I can make those decisions for myself. Like, and that's a red flag to me, to tell me what I should and should not, listen to is cult-like, basically that's cult-like. That's what cults do.
Mm-hmm.
Cults say, don't listen to so-and-so, don't talk to so-and-so, only listen to this correct thing. And that's what the natural birth community can be like, is very cult-like. Like, don't listen to voices that are different. And I think listening to other voices, if you're correct, then it shouldn't change what you believe. If your beliefs are correct and good, then it should strengthen them, not, change them. So that's what I believe.
Did you ever feel like they were trying to separate you from any friends or family that might have had doubts about out of hospital birth, or did you have any friends or family that expressed doubt about your choice to birth out of the hospital?
No, not before Aquila died. Everyone was supportive of it beforehand. Everyone in my life was supportive of that. Family, friends, everyone thought it was a good thing. I did not have anyone that tried to talk me out of it. So I don't know how I would have reacted or what that would have been like, because it didn't happen. So I can't really say. I could guess, but I don't know.
I love that you brought that up, because I think that's the biggest thing probably from doing what we do with the channel, is like, you need to see all sides, because when you're only shown one side, then none of us get to see, well, first off, we're not informed, but we don't get to see the things that could help us make those decisions. So it's like, yes, somebody could see our story and say, I'm still going to go have a home birth. That's fine. But at least you were open enough to see the story. You know what I mean? Like, and make your decision. Because I wasn't, and most of us weren't. We had no idea. We only seen one side, and we didn't get to see everything else. We didn't get to hear the risk.
Yep, that's it.
And when you do hear the other side of it, they are so talented at getting you to believe that that's just bad vibes, and it's not, like, it's somebody's bitterness and anger about their own birth experience coming through, and it's not the reality. They're the kind of like surprise situation, like, oh, you don't have to worry about that because it's so rare for that to happen.
But you never know what nagging doubt might, change somebody's mind, put it there. And if something, God forbid, happened afterwards, they wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone in this. I remember so-and-so had told me about that. At least they know, where to look and, I didn't even have any of that. I was like completely like, this happens? Like, what? Like, I don't know. I think it's good to know when it happens that you're not alone, but you don't want this to happen to anybody else, but there's only people that are going to fully understand are the people who've been through it. So it's good to find those people.